He pretends to be a pathetic background character with no riz, who just wants to be a normal high schooler. But in reality, he is a monster who manipulates everyone and uses them as tools to get everything he wants.
Spread your legs.
The story kicks off with Ayanokoji Kiyotaka riding a bus to his new school, Tokyo Metropolitan Advanced Nurturing High School. On the way, he watches a small drama unfold. A blonde girl asks the riders to let an elderly woman sit. Most students pretend not to hear, but eventually someone gives up their seat, and the ride goes on without trouble. After arriving, Ayanokoji heads toward his classroom. The girl stops him in the hallway and asks why he was staring at her. He answers calmly that his eyes just happened to be pointed that way, nothing more. She mutters a few smug lines about herself, and he waits it out before continuing to class. About the school, it's elite. They brag about 100% job placement after graduation and say they accept only top-tier students from across Japan. During the entrance orientation, the student council president delivers a welcome speech. While listening, Ayanokoji realizes the sharp-tongued girl from earlier is not only in the same class as him, they're seated side by side. After orientation, Class 1D gathers and waits for their homeroom teacher. While they wait, a temporary class rep suggests everyone do quick self-introductions, so it's easier to pick friends. As classmates start talking, Ayanokoji worries about what he should say. He's convinced he'll make everyone cringe because he thinks there's nothing interesting about him. When it's finally his turn, he gives a half-hearted intro about his plain life. Even so, the class claps politely. Their homeroom teacher arrives, Chabashirase, and hands out the school rulebook. She explains the unique setup. Students live in dorms and have very limited permission to leave campus. No need to panic, though the school has everything teens usually want, including a movie theater and a nice park. Then, she explains the school currency system. Each student receives 100 points every month, usable only inside the campus to buy things. After class, Ayanokoji goes to the campus supermarket to grab supplies. He bumps into the same blunt girl from earlier and asks her name. She says she's Horikita Suzune. He notices she's loading up on bargain items even though students are flush with points right now. He tries to chat, but she keeps her distance and says she doesn't need friends. Just then, a loud shout breaks out nearby. They check it out and see Sudo, a Class 1D hothead, in a fight with Class 1C students. Ayanokoji breaks it up and moves on. A few days pass, and classmates start forming groups. Ayanokoji realizes he's failing at the whole make friends thing. In the corridor, Kushida approaches him to talk. She wants to know more about Horikita because she'd like to be friends with her. Classes roll on through the day, and the homeroom wraps the final lecture. After school, Horikita brings up how Sei has been oddly tolerant, while the students slack off, barely caring whether she's even in the room. Ayanokoji asks Horikita to join him at the cafe. She agrees, though not enthusiastically. They find an empty table and settle in. Soon, Kushida gets up from her seat and comes over to speak with Horikita. Horikita senses something off, stands, and leaves. Kushida asks if they can be friends. Horikita rejects her and walks out. On the way back to the dorms, Ayanokoji spots Kushida chatting comfortably with students from other classes. The conversation turns to how the point system works and what everyone expects to receive each month. Ayanokoji eventually returns to his room. That night, he thinks about how recklessly his classmates have been spending, and how casually they treat lessons, then calls it a night. Next morning marks a new month, so everyone expects fresh points. Right, wrong. Sei walks in, totally composed, and drops the hammer. Points are given based on the homeroom teacher's evaluation of the entire class. Since Class D ignored lessons and rules, she didn't rate them at all, so they're getting 0 points this month. Weirdly, Class D takes the bad news in stride. Many head to the pool during their free time to cool off. Near the pool, Horikita stands with Ayanokoji, and they both notice Kushida, who's cheerfully playing in the water with other girls and attracting attention. Horikita asks about the S system, which ranks classes A through D by academic performance and behavior. Everyone starts with 100 class points at admission, and those points drop whenever the class messes up. By month's end, Class D hits 0 thanks to their careless attitude. To rebuild, they'll need to pass tests and prove they deserve class points back. Ayanokoji reminds Horikita that she's still part of Class D, no matter her plan to surpass the other classes, so she'll have to work with them. Horikita glances at his hands and asks if he plays any sports. He says no. Kushida climbs out of the pool and invites Horikita to swim. Horikita declines and continues on. Soon after, the class rep gathers everyone and says they'll need to cooperate if they want more points. Horikita watches from a distance, clearly unimpressed. Not far away, in another room, the student council president congratulates 2 Class A students for hitting 940 class points. After P.E., students change back into uniforms and return to class. During lunch break, Horikita invites Ayanokoji to eat with her. She even buys him an expensive meal, then explains her idea. a study group for the struggling students in Class D to prepare for upcoming tests and exams. Ayanakoji doesn't want to get too involved, but Horikita says he doesn't really have a choice. She gives him her contact info and leaves the decision to him. He takes it seriously and starts asking some of the weakest students to join. All of them refuse. That evening, Ayanakoji dials the dorm's internal line and reaches Kushida. He asks if she'll oversee study sessions for Sudo and a few other underperforming classmates. Being helpful as always, Kushida agrees and shares her contact details. After the call, Ayanakoji learns Kushida already recruited the 3 weakest students. He then calls Horikita to ask if she'll let Kushida teach them. Horikita says no. Kushida hears about this and decides to take action anyway. The next day, Ayanakoji, Horikita, and Kushida arrange short interviews for the struggling student. As expected, Horikita's harsh attitude turns people off. She talks down to each one, and they leave without even finishing the interviews. After they're gone, Horikita regrets asking Ayanakoji and Kushida to help. Kushida stands up, says she'll handle it herself, and prepares to leave. Feeling slighted, Horikita demands to know what Kushida's real goal island. Kushida walks out in tears, while Ayanakoji simply sits there, quietly taking it all in. That night, Ayanakoji steps out of his dorm to grab something and notices Horikita talking with the student council president, who is also her older brother. He's furious that she ended up in the school's most looked down on class, and, in his anger, grabs her like he's about to punch. Ayanakoji cuts in and blocks it before it lands. The president immediately turns on Ayanakoji for interrupting, throwing fast shots, but Ayanakoji dodges them all. That display makes the president curious, and he asks who Ayanakoji really island. It comes out that Ayanakoji deliberately scored 50 on every entrance test, so he'd be placed in Class D. The president leaves soon after. A little later, Ayanakoji and Horikita sit somewhere on campus to talk. She asks if he actually manipulated his test results like her brother claimed. He says it was just coincidence, then shifts the topic back to their classmates. School life rolls on the next day and beyond. Not long after midterms, Sei announces the results to the class and congratulates them for doing great. The room lights up. Everyone's thrilled they passed. The person who gets the most thanks is Kushida, who helped people grind through their hardest subjects and get over the line. Jump back to 3 days before the exam. Ayanakoji spots Sudo scrapping with the same Class C kids again. This time, their leader Ryuen shows up to taunt the hothead. Sudo gets held down and is about to be used as a toy for their bullying until Ichinos from Class B arrives at exactly the right moment and stops it. Ryuen and his crew back off and leave Sudo alone. Ayanakoji tells Sudo to cool it next time. When things settle, Ayanakoji invites Sudo to join Kushida's study group. Sudo says no and heads to basketball practice instead. After practice that same day, Horikita meets Sudo outside the auditorium and hands him clean summaries of their class material. She tells him straight, if he wants to keep playing basketball, he has to study. Sudo takes it well and goes home. Next day in the cafeteria, Kushida meets Ayanakoji to buy midterm past papers from a second year. They offer 10 points. The seller demands 30, they haggle and land on 15. Deal done. After lunch, Ayanakoji and Kushida take a breather outside. She asks if owning old exam sheets is allowed. Ayanakoji says it's within the school rules. Right then, the seller sends the files. Ayanakoji checks them against a set from 3 years ago, and they're the same questions. Kushida gets excited, but Ayanakoji asks her to take public credit for getting them. He doesn't want to be in the spotlight yet. The day before the test, Kushida hands out those questions to classmates and tells everyone to study hard. People feel relieved and thank her. Back to the present, Sei explains that although most students passed, one missed the cutoff. Sudo scored 39 when the pass mark is 40. That means expulsion. Classmates beg Sei to overturn it, but she refuses and walks out. Ayanakoji follows Sei up to the roof. They go back and forth about rules and principles until she tells him to be direct. He asks if she can add a single point to Sudo's score so he can stay. Sei laughs that's not possible. He then asks how many personal points it would take for her to change her mind. Sei names a price, 100, 0 points. Ayanakoji doesn't have that much. Horikita arrives and offers to split it, paying half with Ayanakoji so they can buy that 1 point for Sudo. Sei smiles, knowing the system corners her here, and accepts. That evening, Ayanakoji thanks Horikita for stepping in. She says she only did it for her own aims. He tells her to drop the act. He noticed she intentionally scored lower, so weaker students wouldn't feel shut out. Horikita punishes him for saying that out loud. A few hours later, the class crowds into Ayanakoji's room to celebrate Sudo staying in school. People ask how he convinced Sei, but Ayanakoji says Horikita handled it. After the party, only Ayanakoji and Kushida stay behind to clean up. Before leaving, she asks if he likes Horikita. He says she's just his neighbor. Kushida thanks him and goes, then forgets her phone. Ayanakoji tries to return it, doesn't find her in her room, tracks where she went, and discovers the usually sweet Kushida swearing at Horikita. He's spotted and steps out. Kushida's face switches, going from kind to scary in a second. She asks if he saw anything. He lies and says no. She warns him, if he talks, she'll falsely accuse him of assault and destroy his plot. He promises to stay quiet, and she flips back to her innocent self. Next school day, Class 1B's teacher announces their latest point update. Meanwhile, Ayanakoji rides the elevator with Kushida and Horikita toward the dorms, and later they head to class. He keeps thinking about last night, and is shocked to see Kushida acting friendly with Horikita again. Mid-ride, Horikita steps out early, leaving Kushida with a hurt expression. Ichinos finds them and asks whether Class D has received their points yet, which surprises both Ayanakoji and Kushida. In class, Sei explains there's a problem with this month's point distribution, so Class 1D will have to wait to learn their total. Later, Ichinos asks Ayanakoji to meet. He heads to a quiet spot and finds her already there. She gets right to it. She found a love letter in her locker and wants Ayanakoji to pretend to be her boyfriend for a short time so the sender won't be hurt and will back off. He declines, suggesting she tell the truth instead. At that moment, Chihiro, the person who wrote the letter, arrives. Ayanakoji gives them space. Soon after, Chihiro runs out crying, clearly rejected. Ichinos comes out smiling and thanks Ayanakoji for the assist. Back in class, Sudo yells that he was provoked into swinging at some Class C students. A little later, Sei comes in and announces that Class C has filed a complaint, claiming Sudo attacked 3 of their members out of spite. Sudo says it was self-defense, but because of his temper, his classmates doubt him. That night, Ryuin lounges at the school bar. One of his injured followers shows up to report the run-in with Sudo. Instead of sympathy, Ryuin orders the bouncer to rough him up even more, setting it up so Class C can play the victim later. The following day, Horikita asks Ayanakoji what he thinks does he regret not letting Sudo get expelled when they had the chance. Ayanakoji says no. Losing anyone would only hurt Class D. Climbing the class rankings takes teamwork, so they need every person. Right then, the class rep gathers everyone to help prove Sudo's innocence. The entire group, including Ayanakoji, agrees to pitch in. Horikita gives no answer and simply walks off. A moment later, Kushida meets Ayanakoji and arranges a post-school meetup by the fountain with him and 2 more students. Ichinos also shows up and offers help. Ayanakoji turns her down, suspecting she has other motives. Ichinos tells him to relax, she just wants to help. As the day goes on, everyone starts digging into the case to figure out who's really at fault. At one point, Ichinose gets an anonymous text, pointing to the next lead. She wants to pay the tipster in points, but doesn't know how since the sender is anonymous. Ayanakoji walks her through it and notices she somehow has 2.6 million points, not the usual 100. That evening, everyone gathers in Ayanakoji's dorm room to share what they've found. Horikita arrives soon after and joins in. She says she discovered that Sakura was the anonymous messenger and the only witness who saw the fight. Meanwhile, Sakura, sitting alone in a dark room, gets a call from Kushida and doesn't pick up. Horikita tells the group not to worry, Sakura's testimony won't matter much anyway. Late that night, Kushida visits Ayanakoji to discuss the case. They take a walk, and he opens with a small talk about crime and justice. Kushida asks if he really knows everything about Horikita. Ayanakoji says it's impossible to fully understand someone. Kushida looks like she's about to ask something else, then drops it and leaves. Next day, Kushida approaches Sakura for details about the incident. Sakura hurries away, apologizing for doing nothing. She doesn't want to get involved because she's scared her secret life will be exposed. Watching this, Ayanakoji guesses she might be a webcam model, but he can't confirm yet. Later, Sakura, Ayanakoji, and Kushida meet at the campus mall to fix Sakura's camera it broke when she bumped into Kushida earlier. The tech repair guy checks it and says it's still under warranty, so it can be fixed. While he's looking it over, he turns creepy, asking for Sakura's phone number and contact info. Nervous about this weird behavior, Sakura hesitates. Ayanakoji writes his own information instead and tells the guy to contact him when the repair is done. Sakura thanks him for stepping in. They sit under a shaded spot to rest. Kushida heads to the bathroom, leaving Sakura alone with Ayanakoji. Sakura asks if she should testify or stay out of it. He says she should do what feels right. Then he adds that if she does speak up, she should do it for herself, not to please others. Kushida returns and asks Ayanakoji to meet again later that night. After dark, during that meeting, Kushida reveals Sakura's secret. Ayanakoji's guess was correct. Sakura is a webcam girl. The glasses she wears at school help hide her identity. While they're talking, Sakura texts Kushida saying she will testify. Next morning, Horikita accuses Ayanakoji of being too close to Kushida and ignoring her. He keeps a straight face and shifts back to business. By noon, selected students from Class 1D and Class 1C are called to the student council room for a hearing, with the president acting as judge. Ayanakoji arrives with Kushida, Horikita, and Sudo. The Class C side shows up with their own lawyer. After the case summary is read, Pseudo explodes, insisting Class C started it. When it's Horikita's turn to speak, Ayano notices she's zoning out. Her brother is in the room, and it rattles her. He quietly brings her back to focus and tells her to speak up for Pseudo and the class. Regaining her composure, Horikita cross-questions the Class C boys. She points out how unbelievable it is for one guy to beat 3 strong students without any injuries. The boys won't admit anything, so Horikita calls Sakura, the witness. Sakura describes what she saw. The Class C lawyer immediately objects, calling it hearsay. Sakura replies she has proof on a flash drive. The president plays the files. At first, there are some embarrassing photos of Sakura herself, but they keep scrolling until they find one clear image showing the Class C boys grabbing and threatening Pseudo. Seeing that, the lawyer backs off a harsher angle and suggests a suspension for both sides instead. He asks Horikita if she agrees. She refuses to compromise, saying she wants the full truth. She then turns to her brother and requests his ruling. The president finally speaks and postpones the decision until 4:00 p.m. the next day. Afterward, Sakura apologizes for feeling useless. Ayano tells her to be proud she helped. Outside, the president approaches Ayano and Sakura and asks if they can really prove the boys are innocent. Ayano says he can and will, which amuses the president. Sakura shares a piece of her past. She's been lonely and depressed, always on the outside. She believed her secret job would never come back to hurt her until one night at school when a fan sent a threatening message. The next morning, she found photos of herself stuffed in her locker. Elsewhere, Ayano and Horikita discuss their next move. He wishes there were security cameras in the gym so they could just pull footage. They finally land on a clever plan to use later. Meanwhile, Ayano finds Sakura alone in class and thanks her for helping clear Pseudo's name. He promises to protect her. She thanks him and starts to say more, but Ayano suddenly gets a text from Sakura saying she's already sent the email they needed. He heads to the basketball court. Here's what they arranged. Horikita had sent the Class C boys a message from Kushida's phone so they couldn't ignore it. When the boys arrive at the court, Ayano is already there. One tries to walk out, but Horikita blocks the way and tells them to hear Ayano out. She points up to security cameras they installed moments ago. Since the boys don't know when those cameras went up, they think the whole fight is on video. They start panicking. Ayano speaks calmly but turns up the pressure, making them even more nervous. If they push forward and the school finds out they lied, they'll be expelled. The only way out, withdraw the complaint and pretend nothing happened. One of them pulls out a phone to call Ryuen, but Horikita says they don't get to do that. In the end, they fold and pull back the accusation. That evening, a stalker tails Sakura into a narrow alley. At the same time, Ayano meets Ichinos to talk about how they outplayed the Class C guys. He then gets an SOS call from Sakura and picks up immediately. Seconds into the call, the stalker catches her and pins her down, threatening to expose her secret online if she doesn't obey. He was about to get a taste of her plot, but Ayano arrives in time and snaps a photo of the attacker. It turns out the stalker is the same tech repair guy who handled her camera earlier. Ayano tells him his life is finished and vows to make it miserable. Police arrive soon after and arrest him. Sakura tells the man she never saw him as a fan and that he can go to hell. After the incident, Ayano explains how he tracked her down and tells Sakura to keep her head up to be proud of herself, with or without a camera. Sakura blushes, stands, and pulls herself together. Somewhere else on campus, Sei pulls Horikita aside and asks how she got Class C to pull their complaint. Horikita gets snippy and talks in circles, but Sei leaves her with one warning. Dig up everything you can about Ayano before it's too late. According to Sei, Ayano has a hidden ability or past that makes him different from everyone at school. That evening, Ayano bumps into the student council president by chance. Impressed by Ayano handling of the case, the president offers him the secretary position. Ayano turns it down. He doesn't want more attention or drama. At the same time, Ryuen punishes his guys for withdrawing the complaint and demands the names of the people who scared them. After getting the info, Ryuen walks out in the rain, meets some Class A students, and vows to bring them down as part of his wider plan. Meanwhile, Ayano runs into Horikita, who accuses him of manipulating things to create fake evidence so Class C would drop the case. He tries to leave, but she stops him and asks who he really island. Ayano flashes back to his former life, and it's not pretty. Staring straight at her, he tells Horikita to never pry into his past. She's shaken. A few weeks pass. The students finish final exams and slide into summer break. One morning, Horikita wakes up and gets ready for the day. A few days earlier, a group of boys from their class had huddled up to plan a mission to cure their boredom. Operation Peek into the girls' changing room. Back to the present, Horikita packs her swimsuit and heads to the pool. On the way, she runs into Hirata, the class rep, and his new girlfriend Karuizawa, who invite her to hang out more. She politely declines and meets the others at the bus stop. Kushida is as lively as ever, and Horikita wonders why Kushida still talks to her despite Horikita's cold attitude. Then the three cheerful dudes, Sudo, Ike, and Yamauchi arrive, and they all head to the pool. Once there, the girls head into the changing room and chat about how Ayanokoji has been getting closer to several girls lately. Kushida tries to tease Horikita into feeling jealous, but Horikita doesn't bite. Elsewhere, a student radios his teammate to finish the peeking mission before the girls return. Sudo and Ike take guard duty near the pool, trying to keep people away from the changing rooms until the plan is done. When Kushida grows suspicious, they quickly suggest a volleyball game to stall for time. The girls hesitate, but eventually join and start having fun. Inside, Yamachi, pretending to be a cleaner, sneaks into the changing room after putting up a "Do Not Enter" sign. Soon, the girls are waiting outside for the cleaner to finish, while Yamauchi struggles to mount a hidden camera on the ceiling. Kushida keeps asking where Yamauchi is and heads toward the door. Ike signals their fourth lookout to abort. The lookout calls Yamauchi, "Time's up." A few minutes later, Yamauchi dashes out and rejoins the volleyball match. Then Ike fakes a stomachache and runs to the bathroom to finish what Yamauchi couldn't. Ryuen and his crew stroll by, spot the warning sign, and stop at the entrance. The fourth lookout alerts Sudo to help Ike. Sudo sprints over and tries to block Ryuen from entering. Tension spikes until Sakayanagi, the queen of Class A, steps in and diffuses the situation. The student council president also hangs back, making sure no one throws a punch. Meanwhile, Ike almost loses his nerve, but the lookout talks him into finishing the job after all the effort they've put in. Sudo keeps everyone away from the door. Ayanokoji, who intercepted one of the lookout's signals, asks Horikita to make a speech about Class D's rise to the top to buy more time. She delivers it smoothly, keeping the crowd busy. Ike finally installs the camera and slips out. When she is done, Horikita, she sneaks into the changing room, removes every hidden camera the boys planted, then returns to Ayanokoji by the pool. Ayanokoji decides to let her loosen up and pushes her into the pool. Soon everyone jumps in, and the whole group ends up having a great time. That night, Horikita falls asleep looking at a photo of all of them enjoying the pool. Later, Ayanokoji meets Sei while she's watching a school play about Icarus and his father on a luxury cruise ship. The school organized this boat trip to make summer vacation even better. Ayanokoji calls the play a waste of taxpayers' money and asks for the real reason she called him. Sei explains that a certain man came to school and asked them to expel Ayanokoji. He hasn't done anything wrong, so technically he should be safe, but Sei hints that, as his teacher, she could still expel him. She proposes a deal: help her push Class D up to Class A, and she won't expel him. For the first time, Ayanokoji loses his cool and warns Sei not to double-cross him. She says he has no choice except or risk getting kicked out. He reluctantly agrees to help Class D climb. The next day, students pour out to explore the ship and the ocean. The cruise liner, Esperanza, is packed with luxury everything. While the girls play around, Ike with Ayanokoji, Yamauchi, and Sudo decides to ask Kushida out. He gathers courage, walks up to her, and chokes, asking something totally different instead. Sudo suddenly gets inspired to ask Horikita out. He asks Ayanokoji for a few pointers about her and plans to try later. That afternoon, the four guys eat lunch in a fancy restaurant. Sudo and the others get so confused by the menu that they start shouting for a waiter. Some Class A students mock them, and Sudo snaps, stirring whispers about his bad temper until they're forced to leave. Elsewhere, two teachers get massages and chat about their students. Ayanokoji heads back to his room early to think about his conversation with Sei. Hirata knocks and invites him to hang out. Ayanokoji declines. Hirata then asks if Ayanokoji can help him connect with Horikita, but before he answers, Hirata gets a call from his girlfriend and leaves. In another hallway, Koenji, the ripped, vain member of their class, struts down the corridor wearing only pants. A butler asks him to dry off, but Koenji keeps dripping everywhere without a care. Hours later, Horikita meets Ayanokoji to discuss what the school is really aiming for with this luxury cruise. While they talk, Ryuen shows up and taunts Horikita. His ex, Ibuki, confronts him about how he's been treating her. Ryuen disrespects her. She cocks a fist, and his bodyguard Albert steps and shoves Ibuki away and escorts Ryuen off. Somewhere else on the ship, a teacher receives a report from a student named Masumi. The teacher thanks her and tells her to wait for further instructions. That night, Sakura practices how she'll ask Ayanokoji out. Speak of the devil, he appears, tells her not to hesitate to ask for help, and she takes his hand with a shy smile. Kushida walks up, and Sakura runs off. Ayanokoji holds back from chasing after her and excuses himself. Before he gets far, Kushida flips to her serious persona and asks why he's avoiding her. Ayanokoji ignores it and lets her talk herself out. At sunrise, the students are called up on deck to see the island they're approaching. No one realizes their vacation is basically over. Everyone rushes out to admire the view, but soon they're ordered to assemble for instructions. When it's time, Sei announces a one-week special exam for all first years. The crowd is stunned. Nobody expected a test right now. After laying out the rules, teachers release the classes to begin. Each class receives 8 tents and must share basic supplies for the entire week on the island. Every class also gets 300 special points to spend on anything during the test. They can use it all, but any leftover at the end becomes class points for their homeroom. There's also a bonus twist. At the end, each class may guess the other class's leaders. A correct guess earns plus 50 points. A wrong one, 50 points from whatever they have left. Class D gathers to plan. Some want to splurge and enjoy all 300 points. Hirata and the more serious crew argue for saving, so they'll convert more into class points later. A bit of arguing breaks out until someone brings up the toilet situation. The school issued portable toilets, but the girls don't trust the hygiene and demand they buy a cleaner setup to avoid infections. After lots of back and forth, Class D heads into the forest to pick a campsite. On the way, Ayanokoji and Horikita discuss how to push Class D to the top. This goes on until the group calls a break. Hirata finally ends the toilet debate by deciding to purchase a better toilet for the girls, so everyone can cooperate comfortably. He then asks for volunteers to scout for a campsite. A few students, including Ayanokoji, step up, and Hirata splits them into teams of 3. Koenji gets paired with Ayanokoji and Sakura. Koenji bounds across tree branches, leaving the other 2 struggling to keep pace. After several hundred meters, Ayanokoji and Sakura find a cave. Ayanokoji remembers Sei's hint. If they claim a marked location, they'll receive unspendable bonus points that later convert to class points. Another way to score more is to guess rival leaders correctly. Just then, Katsuragi Class A's leader steps out of the cave with a classmate, discussing things they've noticed about the island. Ayanokoji covers Sakura's mouth and they hide in the bushes. Katsuragi senses someone nearby and checks, but doesn't find them. When he's gone, Ayanokoji inspects the cave and sees it's already claimed by Class A. They return to the group and learn Ike and Pseudo found a prime campsite with a river and soft grass. Some students hesitate to claim it, but they move forward anyway. They appoint Horikita as leader and push her to officially claim the spot using the leader's key card. Tents start going up. Horikita refuses to do heavy lifting and waits until others finish before ducking into her tent. That evening, Yamauchi asks Ayanokoji for tips on confessing to Sakura. Soon, Ayanokoji, Sakura, and Yamauchi are walking the forest and stumble across Ibuki, bruised and apparently dumped by her class. Sakura and Yamauchi offer to let her stay at their camp. Ibuki reluctantly agrees. Later, someone gets a campfire going, and the girls return with fresh fruit. Everyone cheers Ike for handling the fire, and they settle down to eat. Ike apologizes to the girls for not backing them earlier on the toilet issue. With things calmer, Hirata explains how they can budget for the week and still finish with about 120 points remaining. A little later, Kushida and other Class D students tend to Ibuki. Moments after, they discover Koenji has returned to the ship, claiming he's sick. Bad news, since the teachers will penalize the class for one narcissist's behavior. We jump to a flashback from Ayanokoji's childhood. A room full of kids, including Koenji, rip through advanced calculus like it's nothing like some twisted experiment. A supervisor walks over to Ayanokoji and tells him to use his power wisely. Back to the island, day 2. Some boys and girls catch fish and pick fruit. Hirata assigns tasks and splits rations fairly. Later, Ayanokoji and Horikita roam the woods for recon. Horikita admits she's surprised he's helping. Ayanokoji says he needs to protect her from Ryuen and his crew. She agrees. A bit further on, they run into Ichinose, who leads them to Class B's campsite. Neat, tidy, efficient. After a look, they move on and find a Class A student guarding a cave entrance. Ayanokoji nudges Horikita to challenge the guard and ask for entry. Katsuragi, inside, hears the noise and comes out. After listening to their request, he allows them in but warns that if they cause trouble, he'll deal with them. Horikita and Ayanokoji decide it's not worth it and leave. Their next stop is Class C's camp, where Ryuen is running the show. They confront him for blowing through all his special points. Ryuen tells them to mind their own business. Horikita asks why Ibuki was left beaten and abandoned. Ryuen admits he did it and shrugs. He's got nothing to lose with 0 points anyway. As they walk away, Ayanokoji tells Horikita that Ryuen's 0-point strategy actually isn't dumb. They get to enjoy themselves the whole time. Early day 3. A creep slips into a Class D tent and steals something from Kei's bag. A few hours later, everyone's up and moving like normal. By day 4, Ayanokoji and Sakura hike deeper to enjoy the scenery. They reach Class C's seaside campsite and discover it's empty. The whole class is gone. They also meet Ichinose with some Class B students checking the same area, and they team up briefly. Ayanakoji asks about Katsuragi. Ichino says he's conservative, unlike Sakayanagi, Class A's queen, who's more of a reformer. That evening, Class D puzzles over why Class C would quit the test. The best theory they can manage is they got bored and left. Sudo walks over to Ibuki to press for answers about Class C. Ibuki snaps, lashes out, and insults Sudo for abandoning her group. Day 5 of the exam. Chaos hits camp. One of the girls, Ki, reports her stolen underwear, and the blame lands on the boys. They haul every guy out and ask Hirata to catch the thief. The boys line up with bags in hand for a search. Before it starts, Ike peeks inside his own pack. Boom, the underwear is in there. Someone clearly planted it to frame him. With no time left, Ike hands the item to Ayanakoji and sprints back to the line, so his bag gets checked on schedule. Ayanakoji now knows the real culprit slipped it into Ike's bag, but who? Hirata completes the first sweep and finds nothing. The girls still don't buy it and demand a pat down. Hirata has to restart the whole process. Ayanakoji gets nervous. He's got the evidence tucked in his pocket. When Hirata pats him down, he feels the soft, squishy thing and plays it cool, refusing to expose Ayanakoji. That evening, Ayanakoji asks why he covered for him. Hirata says he knows Ayanakoji wouldn't do something like that. He takes the underwear back and accepts the blame, then asks Ayanakoji to find the real thief, so his sacrifice isn't wasted. Later, the girls propose separating tense girls on one side, boys on the other, so no more underwear drama. They pick Hirata to help move the tents, but Horikita steps in and says they should add one more trustworthy boy, Ayanakoji, so Hirata isn't sniffing undies while helping. Overkill, maybe. Still, Ayanakoji and Hirata get to work. Mid-job, a girl calls Hirata away, so Ayanakoji finishes the setup alone. As he's wrapping up, Ibuki walks over. Everyone suspects her, and she asks what Ayanakoji thinks. He says he trusts her. She's surprised, thanks him, and leaves. Afterward, Ayanakoji returns to the spot where they first found Ibuki days ago and rummages the bushes. He finds something off, pockets the clue, and heads back to camp. 2 hours later, Horikita joins Ayanakoji at his campfire, trying small talk. He cuts through it. He knows she's sick and has been hiding it. He checks her temperature. She tries to bluff, but her shaking gives her away. Still day 5. Ike, Ayanakoji, and Horikita wake early to forage. Others tag along. Quietly, Ayanakoji asks how carefully she's guarding the leader key card. Horikita says it's always on her. He asks to see it just for a moment. She hesitates. He asks her to trust him. She flashes it, then puts it back. Right then, Yamauchi shows up and smears mud on Horikita's head. Annoyed, she throws him into the water, and if Ayanakoji hadn't pulled him out, Yamauchi might have drowned. Hours pass. Horikita bathes under the waterfall, basically almost nude, then gets dressed and heads back. Ayanakoji notices Ibuki's gone and keeps watching the situation. Horikita asks him to meet somewhere private, so he follows her into the woods. She drops the bomb. Her key card was stolen. Ayanakoji stays calm and tells her to keep it quiet until they catch the thief. Horikita suspects either K, they've been fighting, or Ibuki, odd Class C girl. Ayanakoji clears K and outlines a plan to confront Ibuki. After the talk, Horikita asks for some time to mope alone. Minutes later, she smells smoke and rushes to camp. The manual is being burned, and a fire is raging. Once they put it out, the class panics and points fingers. Ayanakoji stays out of the shouting match, quietly observing. Kushida asks where Ibuki is. She's nowhere. That likely means she's running. Sudo connects the dots. Ibuki was the spy. Everyone looks to Hirata for direction, but he's freezing up. Ayanakoji snaps him back, and Hirata assigns tasks. Horikita sprints after Ibuki and intercepts her leaving camp. She demands the key card back. Ibuki refuses, clocks Horikita's shivering from illness, and attacks. Horikita fights with everything she has, but Ibuki overpowers her, knocks her down, and escapes. Ibuki then hands off Horikita's key card to the handler she's working with, and completes the mission. After knocking Horikita out, she pulls a radio from her bag and calls Katsuragi, Class A, to report success. Horikita wakes up hours later under a tree near Ayanakoji. She explains what happened and blames herself. He tells her to withdraw from the exam and get treatment. She breaks down, confessing she wants her brother's approval and will do anything for it. Ayanakoji carries her to a teacher checkpoint and asks Sei to take care of her meaning. Horikita must drop out. Ayanakoji is fine, so he heads back. Word spreads that the key card was stolen and Horikita is ill. Ayanakoji informs Hirata that Ibuki is the thief. There's a lot to do and not much time. On the final day, every class packs up and leaves their campsites. Each homeroom gets a form to guess the leaders of the other classes. At Class D's area, Ayanakoji writes the names he believes are correct and submits them. Later, the teachers gather everyone and end the test. Out of the brush, Ryuen appears dirty. Bruised, he never left the island. Katsuragi thanks him for helping Class A recover 500 plus points on day 1. Here's how. Katsuragi had secretly teamed up with Ryuen to farm bonus points. Ryuen planted spies in the other classes to steal leader key cards, letting them guess leaders correctly for plus 50, each with no penalties. He made Class C blow all their points and forfeit the day-to-day test entirely, then hid in the bushes while his spies fed him intel. The scheme worked, and they felt confident going into the final tally. On that last day, Ryuen's homeroom teacher even brought him the answer sheet to fill in the leader guesses. Results time: last place Class C, 0. Next is Class A, 120. Class B lands second with 140. And Class D shocks everyone with a massive 225. Jaws drop. Where did they go wrong? After the celebration, students return to the ship. Horikita meets Ayanakoji to talk. Elsewhere, Hashimoto, one of Sakayanagi's guys, needles Katsuragi, gloating over his loss. In another corner, some Class B students float the idea of transferring to Ayanakoji's class. Ibuki apologizes to Ryuen for failing. Ayanakoji then lays out his whole plan to Horikita. He'd already figured out that Ibuki was a spy, so he orchestrated things. He had Horikita show him the card where Ibuki could see, then carefully set the stage so stealing it would be easy. He knew she'd pass it to the real leader, and while that moved, he observed the other camps and identified each leader. Everything unfolded exactly how he wanted. Horikita is impressed and asks why he's helping them. Before he answers, classmates swarm Horikita to congratulate her for leading them to victory. Kushida corners Ayanakoji, says she hates Horikita, and asks who he'd choose, her or Horikita. He says neither. A text from Sei arrives, summoning him to the theater. There, Sei praises his brains and planning. He asks for proof about the man who came to request his expulsion. Sei says she knows everything about him and tells him to keep performing. Somewhere else, Ibuki learns Ryuen will be paid thousands of points every month, which is what he was really after. Horikita catches up to Ayanakoji and accuses him of letting her take the credit for his work. He replies that she's changing, and moving forward she'll need allies. She grumbles, blames him, then picks Ayanakoji as her first ally and thanks him for the help. In his head, though, Ayanakoji doesn't see Horikita or anyone as an ally. To him, they're tools to win in a world where only winners get everything. After the island exam results drop, the student council president wonders what Ayanakoji will do next. Meanwhile, Ayanakoji is on the yacht, quietly reading, replaying his last talk with Sei, and puzzling over what his father, Guardian, meant by saying Ayanakoji would choose expulsion in due time. He stops overthinking, closes the book, and joins his classmates on deck as they relax. Kushida tries to chat with Horikita and gets brushed off again. Harada invites Ayanakoji to eat with him and his girlfriend Kei, but Ayanakoji declines. He'd rather not get on Kei's bad side. Speak of the devil, Kei finds Hirata and pulls him away from Ayanakoji. Before they get far, the ship's PA announces the second special test. Every student must be in a specified room by 6 p.m. That's followed by emails telling each person which room to report to. 6 hours later, Ayanakoji arrives at room 604, his assignment. Inside are Yukimura, the student everyone calls professor, and another teacher. The room stays quiet while they wait on the final person. The last to arrive is Kei. She spots Ayanakoji, looks uneasy, and sits. The teacher outlines the test. All first years from classes AD are split into 8 groups of 14, named after the planets. Each 14-person group is a mix of classes. That's awkward for Ayanakoji's side. Trust between classes is low, but they have to cooperate, so their unit, Mars Group, can finish well. In each group, one person is secretly the VIP. The group gets 3 days to figure out who, with 2 discussion sessions per day, a rest day on day 3, and wrap up on day 4. The teacher explains 4 possible case patterns for how outcomes are scored. In every pattern, the VIP earns a big chunk of private points. After covering all scenarios, the teacher shares some final notes and dismisses them. That night, Ayanakoji steps onto the deck for air and runs through the possible endgames. He suspects someone will leak VIP identities to other classes. Next morning, everyone is sorted into their official planet groups. Horikita is disappointed Ayanakoji isn't on her team, but she wishes him luck. Ryuen shows up with his bodyguard, Albert, and needles Horikita about how she beat him last test. She refuses to reveal anything and soaks in her win. Ryuen can tell she's holding back and tries to provoke more, but only gets a small reaction. After he leaves, Horikita blames Ayanakoji for dumping all the credit for the first exam on her. Later, Mars Group gathers for their first discussion. Ichino's appoints herself moderator and tries to pull the room together. Debate sputters until some Class A members announce they won't help the team. Their status as Class A won't change whether Mars wins or not. Hamaguchi attempts to talk sense into them, but the back and forth drags on. Eventually, the Class A guys move seats and separate themselves. Afterward, in the lobby, Ayanakoji sees 3 Class C girls harassing Kei. They ask if she hit her friend Rika earlier. Kei says she doesn't remember hitting anyone. They don't buy it and raise their phones to snap her picture. Kei swats their phones away and forbids it. The trio push harder, and Machida steps in and scatters the bullies. During the second Mars session, they're still stuck because Class A refuses to share. Ichino's proposes, making a group chat so everyone can connect. Hours after that meeting, Kei showers, then suddenly stops, sinks to a corner, and sobs. Elsewhere, Hirata talks to Kuenji, the gym-obsessed peacock, about the test's goals and how he wants him to participate. As expected, Kuenji refuses, focusing on muscle work. Hirata lets it go and joins Ayanokoji and one more student to discuss finding the VIP. Hirata says he received a message naming Class D's VIP. Asked who, he shows them. It's Kushida. Right then, Kuenji barges in and nukes Jupiter Group's test, declaring he's out, leaving everyone stunned. That evening, Ayanokoji gets an email from Horikita, scolding him for not stopping Kuenji. He meets her and calms her down, then asks for info on Kei. Something feels off about Kei, and he can't pin it. Horikita tries to steer him away from digging, but he notes Kei's been acting different since the test began. She asks what he plans to do. He keeps his thoughts to himself. Ryuen interrupts to needle Horikita again. He boasts he's on track to unmask the VIP and won't stop. Ayanokoji respects the logic Ryuen is moving fast. Ryuen confiscates Class C phones to check emails one by one. Before leaving, he proposes a Class D+, Class C alliance, trade VIPs, learn the game's logic, and crush Class A. Horikita rejects the merger, and he walks. In another cabin, Kei stares into her bathroom mirror, reminding herself she must be a parasite to survive, otherwise she can't stand alone. Around that time, Horikita sends Ayanokoji away. She doesn't want people mistaking them for a couple. Ayanokoji leaves, and finds Kushida stargazing alone. He joins her for light conversation, then excuses himself. Before he gets far, Kushida runs up like she's about to ask him out, but stops mid-sentence and returns to her room. Down in the bar, the three homeroom teachers of B, C, and D toss back shots. Class B's teacher, Chie, teases Class C's teacher about romance. Say Class D cuts in, asking why Chie is so nosy about her business, hopefully not payback for what Sei did to her long ago. Chie says she's just curious about Ayanokoji. He intrigues her. On his way to his room, Ayanokoji overhears Kei begging Hirata to protect her from the bullies on the ship. She wants him to hurt them so they'll stop. Hirata refuses to harm anyone, plus, they're not really dating. He's just acting as her bodyguard. Kei breaks up with him on the spot and leaves. Ayanokoji steps out and asks if Hirata's judgment is clouded by Kei's toxicity. Hirata explains, it started with a rumor, and Kei dated him for popularity. He also says Kei isn't herself, she's off because she's being bullied again. Next day, Ayanokoji and Kei are first to the conference room. He asks if she's the VIP, she says no. Ichino's and the rest arrive, and the second day's first meeting begins. Before it starts, Kei thanks Machida for stepping in earlier. The discussion opens and stalls. Class A still refuses to talk VIP details. Ichino's keeps offering fresh angles, but the room stays gridlocked. Hours pass. No progress. By the end of the day's second session, Machida parts ways with Kei, and Kei heads off. 3 Class C girls shadow her to a hidden area on the ship. Ayanokoji and one other student spot the setup and follow, then hide. The girls pin Kei down, and she begs them to stop, which only eggs them on. They mock her and make her relive the same kind of cruelty as before. Yukimura finally steps out of hiding and drives the bullies off. Instead of thanking him, Kei tells him to leave her alone. After the Venus group finishes their test early, Ayanokoji figures that means someone called out a VIP, and he suspects Ryuen is behind it. He moves fast, sending Kei an email pretending to be from Hirata, telling her to meet in the engine room. Kei shows up smiling, expecting Hirata, but it's her worst bullies waiting. They even bring Rika, the girl Kei supposedly hit before. They corner Kei and raise their phones to snap humiliating photos while she trembles. One bully realizes Kei has a history of being bullied and decides to make it worse this time. Kei tries to run, they drag her back and slap her. They push Rika to join in. At first, she balks, but the peer pressure wins, and she starts hitting Kei too while the others cheer. Kei goes still and takes it. A short distance away, Ayanokoji watches it all, recording everything. He waits until they've pushed Kei to rock bottom exactly when he knows she'll listen. When the girls finally leave, Kei is sobbing on the floor. Ayanokoji steps out. She tries to act like nothing happened. He tells her to drop the act, he saw everything. He uses hard words and makes it clear he can expose what happened if she refuses to cooperate. She asks what he wants. He notices old injuries, feels a flash of sympathy, and says he'll protect her if she'll help him. He shows the video and tells her to turn it back on the bullies next time they try anything. Then he lays out her role. Take charge of Class D's girls so they can push for Class A. Kei is stunned to see this side of him but agrees, accepting the pawn role, and asks for her next task. Right after, Ayanokoji spends points with Sei for a tool he needs. Early the next morning, he finds Ichinos asleep in the conference room. Her alarm chirps, she pops up, and invites him to talk before the session, asking about his goal to reach Class A. 2 others arrive. and they settle in for the final discussion of this test. Hamaguchi proposes, checking everyone's phones to find the VIP, promising they won't out the VIP once found. People raise the obvious issue. A traitor could sell the info, since a correct first-try VIP guess pays huge private points. While the room murmurs, Ayanokoji casually holds up his phone and plays along. Soon everyone shows their mail except Yukimura, Class D. All eyes turn to him until he admits he's the VIP. Ayanokoji says little and waits. He set a trap for whoever betrays them. Here's how. He had bought a SIM swap tool from Sei and swapped SIMs his and the real VIP's, then placed the VIP's SIM in Yukimura's phone as a second layer. Sure enough, one girl calls Yukimura, and the call route's wrong, exposing that a swap happened and linking it to Ayanokoji. The room turns on Class D, and the session breaks, but Ayanokoji and Ichino stay calm. There's still an angle to win. Ayanokoji meets Kei and says the plan's still on track. He thinks back to how, from night 1, he and Kei had aligned around the real VIP, and he tells her to play it through. Later, Ichino joins them in the lobby to sync right as an email lands. Ryuen already nailed the VIP in Horikita's group. Kushida and other Class D students gather in the bar, trying to sniff out their traitor. Ryuen drops in, gloats, and keeps pressuring Horikita, promising to break her will. After that, Kei, Harada, Horikita, and Ayanokoji meet in the restaurant to dissect the VIP selection logic. They figure out the simple pattern. The school used exactly the one Ryuen exploited earlier, and guess he had help confirming it. What Ryuen doesn't see is that some in Class C are tired of his dictatorship. The best move now, wait, and let internal dissent undermine him. Hirata thanks Horikita for working this through with them. With the second special test over, all first years head back to campus for term 2. In homeroom, Sei announces a sports festival in a few months, and says it will heavily affect scores. She adds that Class D will be paired with Class A as Team Red, while Class C pairs with Class B as Team White, and teams will include students from all years. The room grumbles about cooperating with rivals. Pseudo is fired up, but many are nervous. Sei shuts the noise down and tells them to read the event materials before picking who competes in which event. Someone asks if wins boost written exam points. Sei says yes for top finishers, but last place will lose points next exam. Ayanokoji scans the sheet, 13 events in a single day. Sei leaves player selection in the students' hands and ends class. In the hallway, by the vending machine, Horikita stops Ayanokoji to talk worries about the festival. He says the school surely has a twist hidden. If he can spot it early, they'll be fine. She asks for tricks to tilt the odds. He says for now, they might need to play it straight until he finds the play. At the next class meeting, Pseudo says they should hand him every sports event, since he's the most athletic. Everyone basically shrugs and agrees, leaving the plan in his hands. As the talk continues, Horikita, Suzune, stands and lays out her approach. Pair weaker athletes with stronger ones, so the team nets more total wins. Someone tries to push back, but Horikita shuts her down sharply. The student sits, and Horikita pauses. Then Kei raises her hand and opposes Horikita, calling out how proud and high and mighty she's acting. Horikita insists her plan has no holes, and it really would be good long term, but Kei says she won't sit and watch Horikita use people like chess pieces. Kei asks for everyone's opinions. Most of the class leans toward Kei, and Horikita gets tagged as selfish and cold, someone who'll use anyone to get what she wants. Hirata cuts in, says vote on both ideas, and they'll follow the winner. The vote happens, and the majority ends up choosing Horikita's plan. Hirata closes the argument and gets back to festival logistics. Afterward, Kei finds Ayanokoji and asks why he emailed her to challenge Horikita in class. He tells her not to ask too many questions or try to decode him, to avoid trouble. He does say his one aim is to push Class D to Class A. Kei gets annoyed, calling him out for acting above everyone. Ayanokoji tells her not to sweat small stuff. As he leaves, he adds that Class D will have a traitor during the sports festival, and tells her to watch how that person reveals themselves. When it's time to choose players, everyone changes into PE clothes and meets in the auditorium. The boys test grip strength. Pseudo pulls a massive 82 kg. Ayanokoji calmly hits 60 without effort. After trials, Pseudo gets slotted into every volunteer event. Others get placed, and they all hit the track. Horikita talks down to a girl, and Ayanokoji steps in. One of the festival events is the three-legged race. Ayanokoji humbles Horikita a bit and shows her how to sync with a partner. After a quick lesson, he invites Horikita on a recon trip the next day to prove Kushida is Class D's traitor. He suspects Kushida outed herself as VIP to Ryuen during the cruise test. Horikita questions the accusation, but Ayanokoji gives reasons why Kushida might trade class info for private points. He tells Horikita to think hard about her next move if she wants to lead soon. Horikita sets up a meeting with Kushida and Ayanokoji. At the sit-down, Horikita asks straight if Kushida leaked the VIP info to Ryuen on the ship. Kushida acts shocked, and Horikita says she's not sure she can trust her anymore. Kushida reassures her she only works for the class's success. Horikita goes quiet. Game day. The announcer tells students to pick runners for the 100-meter dash. Sudo steps forward, firing up his teammates to bring home wins. Meanwhile, Sakayanagi meets her allies to check progress. She's told Class D is walking right into their trap as long as no one outperforms Sudo. The tournament kicks off, and Team Red jumps ahead with 2,011 points, while Team White has 1,891. The student council president runs the boys 100 and wins. Horikita gets glum, watching her brother take it. Kuenji sits out again, which ticks off Sudo, who shouts at him. Hirata steps in before Sudo starts another scene. Next up, topple the pole White versus Red. Most of Team White swarms Sudo, pinning him so he can't reach their pole. With Sudo neutralized, White drops Red's pole fast. Ryuan trash talks Sudo, sapping morale, and White takes the event. Sudo, furious, blames his teammates. Horikita does a quick practice before her race and accidentally collides with Kinoshita, Class C, causing a serious injury. Kinoshita is rushed to the clinic. Ayanakoji checks on Horikita and asks if she's fit enough for the next event. She says she'll manage despite the injury. In the next all-girls event, Team White targets Horikita and locks an easy win. After, Sudo comes over to encourage her, promising to help her win later events and drag Team Red back in front. Unfortunately, Sudo bites on Ryuan's provocations again and costs Red another result. White closes the gap on Red in the standings. Kei asks Ayanakoji how the other teams know who to focus on and who to ignore. He says the traitor in their class leaked their roster to Ryuan, making it easy to counter them. Kei asks if he has a plan to win the whole thing. Ayanakoji says he doesn't intend to win this festival. He wants this loss to ignite the class's hunger for future victories. Someone from Ryuan's squad walks up and needles Sudo again. The hothead cocks a fist. Hirata steps in and takes the punch instead. Respect for Sudo's leadership evaporates almost instantly. Sudo doesn't care, stomps off. The school grants a 50-minute break. Seeing despair on Horikita's face, Ayanakoji tells her to bring Sudo back into the fold. She's ready to give up, but he spells it out. Sudo is an irreplaceable weapon. If she wants to beat Ryuan, he's the only one who can truly threaten the other side during this tournament. At lunch, Kei and Hirata ask Ayanakoji to name the traitor. He says nothing. Just then, Kushida calls for Horikita and says Kinoshida's injuries are bad. Horikita hurries to the clinic and finds Ryuan there with Kinoshita. Ryuan pushes Kinoshita to lie about the collision, framing it like Horikita hit her on purpose. He shows horrible injuries on Kinoshita's legs and threatens court, unless Horikita cuts a deal to keep it quiet. 1-0 private points. Horikita refuses, then asks for another chance. Ryuan tells her to grovel at his feet if she wants it to go away. She leaves the clinic and runs into her brother, the president, telling him she failed and promising to make up for it somehow. Horikita decides to play her last card to pull Class D up. She tracks down Sudo, taking the elevator toward the exit. She stops him and tries to talk sense into him. First, Sudo unloads his backstory. Parents who were a mess, a kid born out of wedlock, always looked down on. Because of that, he's learned to stop caring about what people say. He keeps yelling, saying his teammates slow him down. Horikita tries to reason, but he rebuffs every attempt. Then, the PA announces the afternoon session is starting. Sudo steps back into the elevator to head to his room. Horikita calls after him that she'll wait until he comes back. Minutes before the afternoon block, Ayanakoji gets ready for the three-legged race with Kushida. While they're tying ankles, he flat out asks if she was the one who leaked Class D's info to Ryuan. Kushida plays sweet and innocent, but Ayanakoji keeps pressing until she admits it. She tells him she passed the class list to Class C, then reminds him of her earlier warning. If he ever tries to report her, she'll push a false assault accusation against him. Ayanakoji says he never planned to report her, so don't worry. He does ask why she betrayed them for points or something else. Kushida says she's doing it to get Horikita expelled, and now that Ayanakoji knows her plan, she'll aim to have him expelled too. If that isn't villain behavior, what island? Sudo returns to the auditorium and is shocked to see Horikita still waiting for him. He ignores her, buys a drink at the vending machine, and heads off. Horikita stops him and opens up about the gap between her perfect brother and herself, how she's always chased his level, shut out friendships, and now realizes she needs allies to hit her goals. She asks Sudo to help her push Class D to Class A. Sudo relents, changes his mind, and agrees. They head back to the field. Sudo apologizes for being a jerk, and Class D starts feeling normal again. Horikita and one more teammate sit out the afternoon after spraining their ankles. Ayanakoji steps in to cover for the guy. The session opens with a relay. Ayanakoji is paired with the student council president on the anchor leg. He challenges the president, saying he won't hold back. The president gets the baton first, but waits until Ayanakoji receives his so they can run together. Once Ayanakoji has it, they take off, blow by the other teams, and sprint neck and neck to the tape. Ayanakoji eases just enough to let the president win by a hair. Afterward, Kei and the class praise Ayanakoji's run. Horikita thanks him, saying he's pushed her into real growth, and her resolve to lift the class hardens. Hours later, Horikita meets Ryuen and Kushida to grovel, as agreed. Before that, she calls out Kushida as the traitor and asks why she wants her expelled. Kushida says she needs to erase anyone who knows her dark past, and threatens to drag Horikita's brother into trouble if Horikita ever reports her. Horikita swallows it and moves to finish the deal. Then Ryuen casually reveals he was the one who worsened Kinoshida's leg injury to make it look terrible, and force Horikita to her knees. Horikita pulls out her phone and says she's been recording. If he tries anything, she'll send it to the student council. But Ryuen has been recording too, and orders her to kneel. Right then, he gets an email with a voice clip attached. He plays it and shows it to Horikita. Turns out, Ayanakoji had already recorded Ryuen's talk with Kinoshita, the one where he ordered her to smash Horikita's standing. Cornered, Ryuen drops it and walks, and Horikita keeps her dignity. A few days later, Student Council President Horikita Manabu gives his farewell speech and steps down. The new president takes the stage and lays out a plan to run the school like a meritocracy, keeping only the most capable at the top. After the assembly, Katsuragi warns Ayanakoji about Ryu and says he regrets ever teaming up with that snake, and tells the rising star to watch his back. Ayanakoji thanks him and moves on. Sakura catches up, asks to talk in private, and then asks if he's seeing someone. He says no. She smiles, grabs his number, and dashes off, flustered. Kei watches the whole thing from the shadows. In the next homeroom, Sei announces the midterm results, a good chunk pass, and she congratulates them. Then she introduces the next exam, the paper shuffle. This time, the whole class will be paired in twos after a short mini-test, and then face a challenge to earn bonus points toward the class total. It won't hurt their overall score. Sei adds that the next mini-test questions will be written by the classes themselves, and she'll email rules soon explaining how to craft questions for the other classes. After class, Horikita asks Ayanakoji to join a strategy meeting, starting in a few minutes. Once she leaves, Kei blasts him with multiple emails about his Sakura situation. He realizes she's jealous and calls it out. He's about to reply when Hirata summons her for the strategy session. Kei meets Hirata and crew at the stairwell. Kushida shows up too, which makes things rough for Horikita. Horikita quickly adjourns the meeting and leaves. When the hallway clears, Horikita brings Ayanakoji to an empty classroom and tells him about Kushida's past, that she was the prime suspect in a weird middle school incident. The details are messy, but it's not unrealistic. She was involved. Ayanakoji says they should end the Kushida problem now, meaning expel her. Horikita wants to try diplomacy first. He agrees to her approach and backs off. She thanks him and heads to her dorm. That evening, Ryuen gathers Class C to flush out their traitor. He squares up to Manabe, leader of Kei's bully crew. Manabe cracks, apologizes, and Ryuen says it's fine as long as she names the mastermind tugging strings in Class D. He narrows it to Yukimura or Ayanakoji. Ibuki scoffs. No way, it's the weak background Ayanakoji, but Ryuen stays uncertain and calls Kushida for her take. Later, Ayanakoji and Horikita join the others at a cafe to plan paper shuffle. Horikita proposes pairing the weakest with the strongest to raise floor scores. Everyone agrees. They also guess that Class C will be the one writing their questions. That night, Kei calls Ayanakoji, still probing about his Sakura relationship. He tells her not to worry, he isn't planning to date Sakura. Before hanging up, he tells Kei to call him first if anyone threatens her. She blushes and ends the call. After the mini-tests, Sei posts results, and Ayanakoji learns he's paired with Sakura for paper shuffle. Kei is unhappy about that match. Hirata organizes a meeting to sort paper shuffle tactics. During it, Kushida drifts off, reliving awful memories from her past, then snaps back and listens to the plan, making sure she places herself where she can betray the class again. Horikita and Ayanakoji keep close watch. As expected, Kushida gets up and leaves with a sharp attitude. While Hirata and Horikita talk, two students approach with a pairing problem. Both are weak in the same subjects, so teaming them up would be a disaster. Yukimura steps in and offers to tutor them through the gaps. Horikita says yes, and also assigns Ayanakoji to oversee Yukimura and the pair, making sure they're actually learning. Ayanakoji tags along for the next tutoring session and realizes Yukimura is actually great at spotting gaps and teaching. Yukimura starts with a quick diagnostic quiz to see where the two students stand. When he grades it, he's surprised they think almost identically, so coaching them will be straightforward. While they work, Ayanakoji remembers his birthday is close. They wrap the paper shuffle talk and head out. On the walk back, he tells Horikita to write tricky questions for their opponents. She says she and Hirata are already crafting solid problems for the other class. As for Kushida, Horikita says she has a plan to deal with her. Before they split, she asks Ayanakoji to drop into her study group sometime. He agrees and keeps moving, then gets a text from Ryuen, prying about his real identity. Next scene, library. Ayanakoji studies with Sakura, soon Horikita and the others join, and the session begins. Kushida attends from start to finish. When it ends, everyone leaves except Horikita and Ayanakoji. She vents again about Kushida, promising to meet her after school to talk it out. Later, Horikita confronts Kushida and asks why she really wants her gone. Kushida says she intends to erase everyone who knows about her past. Horikita proposes a bet. If Kushida scores higher than her in the finals, Horikita will withdraw from school. If Horikita wins, Kushida stops sabotaging her. They haggle over terms and conditions and finally agree, since the setup seems stacked in Kushida's favor. Horikita then brings in her brother to witness the deal so no one can go back on it. By night, Kushida meets Ayanakoji and Horikita and adds a new condition. If she outscores Horikita in math, Ayanakoji must drop out too. He accepts but sets his own clause. In return, Kushida must tell him exactly what happened in middle school. Her face changes, and she finally talks. Kushida explains she's been praised since childhood and got addicted to being the center of attention. She expected the same in middle school, but learned she wasn't special there. She discovered she could earn praise by doing everyone's work, which worked for a while until she got fed up. At night, she vented online, posting a blog full of nasty takes about her classmates. When they found out, they bullied her. She hit back by exposing everyone's secrets, which blew up the class into all-out fights, boys and girls. She tells them she already knows plenty about Class D and could destroy them fast. Horikita is stunned at how far the attention-seeking goes. Next day, after accepting the bet, Kushida meets Ryuan to grab the questions. Class C wrote for Class D, guaranteeing her win. Ryuan asks what he gets. She promises to leak Class D's questions to him so he can breeze through paper shuffle. Before leaving, she asks about the Mastermind hunt. Ryuan says it's under control. At the following study meetup, Yukimura gives mock problems to Miyake and Hasabi, the two he's tutoring. After grumbling about how tough they are, Hasabi gets up for a refill. Someone sticks out a leg. She spills her cup, and Ryuan steps on it, then stares down Ayanakoji. He brings Hiyori to see if she recognizes Ayanakoji's face. She doesn't. Ryuan leaves shortly after. Post-study, everyone grabs ice cream and popsicles, and chills while people chat about nothing. Ayanakoji looks up and spots a girl eavesdropping on them. Hasabi, trying to bond, suggests they use first names. Yukimura says call him Kei's, his dad's name. They agree and shake on it. Then Sakura steps out from hiding and asks to join the study group. After some back and forth, the team welcomes her in. A bit later, Ayanakoji calls Kei to say he's going to the movies with the group tomorrow, gives her instructions for her part, and hangs up. Right after, he gets an email, a happy birthday note that looks like it's from Kei as well. Next day, Horikita gathers her study group to review test prep. Kushida smiles and wishes everyone a smooth paper shuffle. Kei snaps, says that fake smiling is gross and makes her feel judged, and then spills her drink on Kushida's chest. Hirata steps in and stops it from getting worse. Ayanakoji sits nearby and just watches. After the break, Kushida hands Sei her question set and tells her not to accept any other versions a student might bring later. Sei nods and takes them. Next, Kushida delivers Class D's questions to Ryuan and receives his class's set in return. Paper shuffle day arrives. Everyone gets to class early and settles in. When the test starts, the room goes silent. Kushida flips her paper and freezes these aren't the questions Ryuan gave her. She realizes she's been had. After the exam, fuming, she storms to Ryuan for answers. He tells her she walked straight into Horikita's trap. Horikita had already submitted their real questions to Sei, then asks Sei to pretend to accept any extra set someone like Kushida might bring later and shred them afterward. On top of that, Horikita had looped Ryuan in with a decoy swap, so he'd keep deceiving Kushida to the very end. Ryuan then pulls a cheat sheet out of Kushida's blazer, the one Kei planted earlier, and leaves her with her failure. Next time, Horikita and Kushida meet. Horikita suggests they bury the hatchet and move on. Kushida refuses, saying she'll just change targets. Next up is Ayanakoji. Big mistake. Ryuan messages the Mastermind, a photo of Kei, threatening to hurt her unless the Mastermind reveals himself. The Mastermind, Ayanakoji tells him to bring it and see what happened. A few days later, paper shuffle results are out. Hirata and the Class D crew gather at an outdoor cafe. First, they celebrate that no one got expelled, then discuss next steps toward their goal. Across the way, they spot Ichino's, Class B, chatting with Sakayanagi, Class A's queen. They agree. Ichino's is strong and decide it's safer to keep her at arm's length. Hayes mentions Christmas, and Sakura asks Ayanakoji out on a Christmas date. He doesn't answer, just thinks about his next move, then glances back like he felt someone listening, wondering if the watcher is Kei. That night, while Kei walks back to the dorm, she notices someone tailing her and gets more cautious. She reports it to Ayanakoji, saying she suspects a Class C student. He tells her he's watching out for her and asks about the task he gave her. Kei says she did a bit of stalking herself and found someone from Class C was spying on one of their study sessions. Ayanokoji hangs up, wondering what Sakayanagi is plotting. Next day at school, Sudo complains that Class C keeps trying to provoke him. Ayanokoji praises Horikita for keeping Sudo under control. She shrugs it off, but wonders why Class C is working so hard to stir them up. She asks if Ayanokoji has a plan to take Ryuen down. As usual, he doesn't reveal his playbook, but assures her he still intends to lift their class. Just then, Horikita hands him a library book that's due and asks him to return it. At the library, he notices Hiyori stretching for a high shelf. He retrieves the book for her, and they chat about reading. She recommends a few titles. He questions her motive. What if she's Ryuen's spy? Hiyori says she's not into that and heads out. Right then, Sei finds Ayanokoji in the library and brings him to an office. Waiting there is the doctor he never wanted to see again, the man who trained him. We get a quick look at Ayanokoji's past. He was part of a dark program where orphans were put through brutal mental and physical drills to shape them into ultra-capable, emotion-blunted tools. So far, Ayanokoji is the best product that Doctor has made, and the Doctor wants him back. He even tries a sob story about an employee's death to push Ayanokoji into quitting school. Ayanokoji refuses. When the pressure rises, the chairman Sakayanagi's father arrives, backs Ayanokoji, and shuts the doctor down. The doctor gives up and leaves. Out in the hall, Ayanokoji tells Sei that now he knows her expulsion threats were empty. He's free to do as he wants, and she should never contact him about dragging Class D to Class A again. That night, Ayanokoji calls Kei to apologize for how he's been ignoring her. Kei accepts, then asks what's been on her mind. Why has he never shown his brains to the class? If he did, he'd be a star. He says he likes the background, period. He finishes the apology by saying he's done chasing class, he'll leave that to Horikita and step back. Before hanging up, he adds this will be their last call, since there's no reason for them to keep talking. Kei tries to talk him out of it, but he ends the call. Next morning, he avoids Kei and just warns her to be careful around Class C. A few hours into the day, Ryuen strolls into Class D to flush out the mastermind himself. He spots Koenji walking out and orders his guys to tail him. Horikita and the others sense trouble and hurry to the yard. Ryuen needles Koenji fires back with snark, and Ryuen gets irritated when the sass is returned in full. Sakayanagi and her crew also show up to watch. Ryuen keeps asking loaded questions, trying to make Koenji slip and admit he's the mastermind. Koenji shuts him down hard and says he isn't the one. Ryuen threatens to get physical if Koenji keeps insulting him. Koenji says do it. Ryuen won't brawl in public, so he backs off. Sakayanagi teases him, hits a nerve, and he spins a kick at her head. Her bodyguard blocks it. The scuffle fizzles. Koenji struts off. Ryuen still has no mastermind, and it eats at him. He asks Horikita about Koenji's personality. She calls Ryuen's recent antics reckless and wonders how long he'll keep this up. Ryuen just says the game ends when he finds the puppeteer. Ayanokoji watches quietly from the edge. That night, Ryuen and his two enforcers head outside, wondering why their traps keep failing. Ibuki asks why he's so obsessed. Ryuen says he's having fun, nothing more. Then, he plays his last card, a move risky enough to get him expelled if caught. He lures the bait to a construction site, arrives early to kill every camera, and waits in the freezing cold with Ibuki, Albert, and Ishizaki. Soon Kei walks in and meets Ryuen. She tries to talk her way out, but he's set on breaking her until she names the mastermind behind Class D. He threatens to expose her past if she won't talk. Kei refuses to sell out Ayanokoji. Ryuen steps back and lets his guys start. Ishizaki dumps ice-cold water over her to kick off the torture. They keep pressuring Kei for the mastermind's name. Around that time, Ayanokoji exits a convenience store with groceries. Meanwhile, Ryuen continues the abuse, but Kei stays silent. Ryuen grows impatient, lifts her like he's about to get ugly, and keeps trying to force a slip. Kei still won't name him. Ryuen claims that earlier bullying, rescue, was just how Ayanokoji turned her into a pawn. He's right about the strategy, but Kei still won't betray him. He yanks her up by the hair to stare her down and asks why she's protecting someone so cold. In her head, Kei tells herself she's proud for holding out and clings to the tiny hope that Ayanokoji will show up. Rather than join his classmates for a hangout, Ayanokoji calls Sei to meet in an empty classroom and reports what Ryuen's doing to Kei right now. Even then, Sei tries to cut a deal about him boosting Class D. He goes another direction. He takes her to Manabu, the ex-president, so she witnesses the plan. Manabu agrees to testify that Class C started the fight if things blow up in return. Ayanokoji will help Horikita get an official student council seat. Deal done. He leaves. Sei calls after them, but Manabu says Ayanokoji intends to end Class C's war himself. Ayanokoji reaches the construction site and meets Albert at the door. He reveals his identity, and Albert lets him in. Inside, Kei is stunned and relieved to see he kept his promise. Ayanakoji drops the mask and states outright he's the mastermind behind Class D's rise. Ibuki scoffs, so he cites the island test to prove it. Seeing the fear vanish from Kei's eyes, Ryuin is finally convinced. This is him. Ryuin smirks and asks how Ayanakoji plans to beat all 4 of them to free Kei. Ayanakoji says one by one is fine. Ishizaki lunges first, Albert second, Ibuki third. Ayanakoji drops. Ishizaki folds Albert, then floors Ibuki in short order, showing clean, controlled technique. He tells Ryuin this whole setup was part of his plan to end the Class C problem. Now it's one of own. Ryuin has no formal training, just street fighting, and tries to overwhelm him. Ayanakoji reads him, counters, and pins him fast. Ryuin says he's never felt fear in his life. Ayanakoji replies he's never feared Ryuin or anyone at school because he acts by logic, not emotion. Then he breaks Ryuin down enough that the tyrant finally feels fear. Ryuin collapses, beaten. Ayanakoji goes to Kei, apologizes for being late, and asks why she didn't give him up. She cries that she couldn't. He holds her and promises never to let her be put through that again. Next day, Ibuki stops by Ryuin's dorm. He's not there. She calls no answer. She finally sees him, calm and bandaged, walking toward the gate. For the first time, Ryuin apologizes for using her, hands her his points, and steps down as Class C's leader. Ibuki hardly recognizes him and tries to talk him back into being their boss. He says he's done. She storms off. Ayanakoji, who overheard it all, decides to use Ryuin's new attitude to his advantage. Meanwhile, Kei lies in bed replaying how the quietest boy took down 4 opponents to save her. Too late to deny it, she's fallen for him. Later, she heads out with Maya. Maya says she plans to ask Ayanakoji out on Christmas and shows Kei her date script for feedback. Kei reads it and learns Maya intends to ask him to be her boyfriend. Jealousy hits, and Kei starts asking weird, probing questions. When she hears the date is Christmas Day, she decides to set up a double date with Hirata to spy on them. That night, Kei is stuck wondering what Ayanakoji is planning. His call pops up. She answers. He asks her to dig up info on Maya and email him the findings. He hangs up, leaving Kei sleepless. Ayanakoji meets Horikita to talk about student council placement. He says her brother agreed to get her in. Horikita doesn't believe it, so he calls Manabu and hands her the phone. She learns Ayanakoji was telling the truth. He leaves with a quick good day. Next, Ayanakoji calls Ryuin to meet somewhere quiet. When Ryuin arrives, Ayanakoji credits him for hanging in there during the fight. Ryuin pledges himself to Ayanakoji and asks what's next. Ayanakoji says he's going to root out the saboteur of Class D, and he promises to expel Kushida as soon as he can. The following day, Maya meets Ayanakoji. Kei and Hirata join later to make it a double. They hit the movies, then a restaurant. Kei keeps watching for any sign Ayanakoji likes Maya. By evening, the date ends. Maya walks him to a quiet spot and confesses, asking to be his girlfriend. He apologizes and turns her down. Maya runs back to the dorm in tears. Once she's gone, Kei steps out from hiding. A few hours later, she asks why he rejected Maya. He says Maya can't replace her. Kei smiles and hands him a present. He accepts it, gives her cold medicine and his own gift in return. She thanks him. He walks her home, noticing she's smiling the whole way. In his head, though, he feels nothing romantic. To him, everything is proceeding as planned. Now that Kei believes he loves her, she'll be even more willing to help his perfect pawn for the long game. And that's where this video ends. Watch this following video, and I'll be back with new one.